Hi everybody, and welcome to Garden Style. So today I thought I would cover 3 of my most favorite late winter, early spring blooming shrubs. Let's face it, after we get out of the winter time, we are anxious for any type of bloom, but especially fragrance. And I have chosen 3 shrubs here that are extremely fragrant. So I recommend using some of these shrubs as close to your front door as you can, depending on the exposure, of course, so that you're able to enjoy them the moment you walk in the door or the moment you walk out onto your deck or your patio. So give that some thought as I start to go through these different shrubs. So the very first one I'm going to introduce you to is a winter blooming Daphne. Now they call it winter blooming. It's actually late winter, early spring, and they have like these faint pink, almost purple flowers on them, and this is a real small specimen that I have here. They have like a green and white variegated leaf or margins on their leaves, and they're spectacular for the fragrance. I had this in the back of my car, bringing it here to my house, because I don't own one yet, and I really want one. And it was smelling up the entire car. I mean, it was a heady type of fragrance. It's so strong. But there are lots of different types of Daphnes, and I'm going to cover the late winter, early spring bloomer, or what they call a winter blooming Daphne. There are other Daphnes out there, some summer Daphnes, and I will definitely do a separate video just on those alone, because there's so many different varieties of them that I felt, you know, one separate video would be great to do on these particular specimens. Now, Daphnes here, this particular one, the winter Daphne, prefers shade. It can take some early morning sun, but by the time you get to noon, 1 o'clock, it really needs to be in the shade. That's where it prefers it. A little bit of morning sun is great, because that just means it's going to produce some blooms for you. Now, Daphnes are the type of shrub that require really good drainage. They absolutely hate wet feet. Doesn't matter what type of Daphne you plant, they just hate it. So wherever you put it, you want to make sure to give it really good drainage. And here in the Northwest, where we get so much rain during the wintertime, I usually plant my Daphnes at least 1 to 2 inches above the ground, and I'll put some bark mulch, that sort of thing, underneath the shrub, just to create a little extra drainage for it, even though as I prepare the hole for it, I will make sure that it drains. But that's the ticket to getting success with these shrubs. If they get too wet or they sit in water, they will die every single time on you. So drainage is the ticket to growing these guys. And you can let them go dry a little bit, not a whole lot. They do like an evenly moist type of soil. And I only fertilize mine once a year. They don't require a whole lot of fertilizing. I'll usually do it after they're done blooming, just because they have used all their energy to create those blooms, and they need more in order to set their buds and create more for you the following winter. So this particular specimen, he will get about, I don't know, 4 feet high by 4 feet wide. So they're excellent in a shrub border. It's evergreen, so it's going to keep its leaves. That's another thing we crave during the early spring, is we want everything to hurry up and leaf out. Well, these keep their leaves throughout the year, as well as give you some outstanding blooms. So what else can I tell you? This is a more tender variety of Daphne that you see here. It is hardy down to zone 7 or 0 degrees. I would definitely give it some extra mulch and some extra protection if you live in a zone a little colder than that, but that's where they thrive, usually from zone 7 to about zone 10. These do exceptionally well. I live in zone 8, and I've always had good luck with them, but I've never had one here at my new house, so in the ground he goes, which will be near the front porch. What else can I tell you about them? You definitely want them to let them get dry in between waterings. Again, they hate wet feet, so that's not going to hurt them a bit. And And of course you can expect them to do their thing probably by February. Most of these start blooming by end of January, February, and as you can see he's still hanging on to his leaves or his flowers, and they're just now starting to fall off the shrub, and here we are getting towards the end of March. So you've got a long time to be able to enjoy his blooms. And he's got gorgeous foliage, so when the blooms drop you have a beautiful kind of yellow and green margined leaves to help hold its space until you get to smell it again the following year. So there's a favorite of mine, which is Winter Daphne. And then the second one I wanted to introduce to you, if you haven't heard of them already, is Sweetbox. This particular one is a Himalayan Sweetbox. There's also another variety that does very well in the late winter, early spring for fragrant blooms, and that's ruscifolia. And I'll put that in the description box down below. But I like this. I chose these. This particular variety has a narrower leaf than the ruscifolia, and it's also a shorter variety. So this would be great like in front of a shrub border. They only get about 2 feet high by 2 feet wide, which is great. And I can already smell it. You can't really see the flowers on here. They're pretty insignificant. However, they pack a powerful punch when it comes to fragrance. You can smell them from a block away. And at the nursery, we usually start displaying these in the front as people walk by to the front door and they can smell them. And I can guarantee you every single time they stop and they ask us, what is that smell? And it's usually your Sweetbox, or Sarcococca is the horticultural name for it, but I can put that in the description box for you as well. Now these will start blooming late January, and this one is still blooming, and here we are getting towards the end of March. This is also an evergreen shrub, so it's going to hang on to its leaves, but I like this variety because it's a little shorter than the ruscifolia. The ruscifolias can get 5 to 6 feet tall if you let them. You can easily trim them. But these I preferred because I have a space out in my shade garden. This prefers shade, not sun. And I needed some evergreens to put into my shade garden so it doesn't look totally bare during the wintertime. So I love these. They're so fragrant, and they have a really nice texture to them too. I really like the narrow leaves to them. And these are hardy to, let's get you that information. These are hardy to zone 6, zone 6 through 9, which is minus 10 to 0 degrees. And of course, water occasionally, especially during extreme heat. And this is another shrub that prefers not to have wet feet. So again, plant it just a little higher than the ground level. Put a little bark mulch down in the bottom of the hole to ensure that it's not going to sit in water. And mine is kind of on a slopey area anyway in my shade garden, so I'm not too worried about the drainage part. But man, is it a nice surprise towards the end of February when this thing starts to bloom and it just smells up the entire backyard, which is where I'm getting ready to put it. But what a fantastic shrub. 2 feet by 2 feet tall, extremely hardy once they're established, and they'll just keep blooming and blooming for about 2 or 3 months and give you that fantastic fragrance. So Sarcococca, or Himalayan Sweetbox, is the name of this particular variety. Okay, and then I pulled another one. This is in a pretty good size can here, right here. Hopefully you can see the red in here. These haven't quite opened up yet, but this is a spring bouquet, Viburnum, and it is amazing. So this is going to be popping open probably in the next few days because we are guaranteed to get into the 60s for about 3 or 4 days, and once it feels that heat and gets some of that sun, all of these are going to start to open up. And they're just beautiful. They're like small little bouquets of flowers that come out in a light pink and gradually turn to white. Very fragrant. I wouldn't say as fragrant as the Sweetbox, but it's fragrant nonetheless. You will smell it. And the cool thing about this shrub is it takes sun. So this needs at least 5 to 6 hours of full sun in order to really produce its blooms and really get going for you. It's also an evergreen, so it hangs on to its leaves. And these get fairly tall. This would make an excellent hedge shrub. It can get 5 to 6 feet tall, so it's great as a screening plant if that's what you want to use it for. And of course it hangs onto its leaves, so you don't have to worry about seeing your neighbors during the winter time. Bonus is you get the flowers, and these will last you through April and May. So this blooms just slightly after the other two that I just introduced you to. And this guy's hardy as well. He's hardy down to zone 6. You want to space these at least 4 to 6 feet apart. Give them a little room so they can spread out. But yeah, they can get 5 to 6 feet tall and just about as wide. So this will require a lot more room out in the garden. But another really reliable, hardy shrub that's going to give you some very early spring fragrance. It's very compact. It's going to sit real compact. If you're going to use it for a hedge, of course, I would recommend trimming it as soon as it's done blooming. That way it's going to encourage more new growth, it's going to keep it dense, and it's just going to produce that many more flowers for you during the early spring. What else can I tell you? Let's see. He's not too fussy about water. Once he gets established, during the first year, of course, you want to make sure they stay well watered. After that, you can pretty much leave them alone, except when it gets really hot. You might want to give them a douse of water, but other than that, they're so hardy, you don't have to fuss with them a whole lot. And what more can you ask for a hedge shrub, or a shrub that gets that large? So, Viburnum Spring Bouquet. Very popular plant with us. It's beautiful even without its blooms opening up. It's already got that real deep pink reddish tinge to it, and then they'll just open up and smell at the air. So, gotta love those. So those are some favorites. I chose that particular shrub because I have kind of an ugly area in the back of one of my gardens and I want to cover it up. I don't want to see my compost pile, which is sitting in the back. So I think I found my answer to be able to cover that. Alright, you guys, so I hope you all are starting to get into the spring spirit. I know I am. At our nursery, we've already received our cool season veggies. We're starting to get our geraniums in and petunias. We are finally at that time of the year where we can start planting and adding a whole lot of color to the backyard. So as we move along here and we start getting more plants in at the nursery, in fact, we are getting a nice collection of crepe myrtles this coming week, and I hope that's what my next video can cover. Whether they have leaves or not on them, I want to cover them anyway. I'm really excited to get this nice batch, and they're all different sizes and colors, so I hope to cover that in my next video. Alright, you guys, of course, if you have any questions at all, you can put them in the description box down below, and I'll be more than happy to answer them for you. Meanwhile, get out there, get your hands dirty, and let's go with spring. Talk to you soon. Bye for now.